For centuries, our country grappled with the deeply ingrained sin of discrimination. Black Americans in particular faced segregation and prejudice in nearly every aspect of life. The weight of Jim Crow laws hung heavy, enforcing separation and inequality. But amidst the darkness, a movement was born. Brave souls fueled by hope and a hunger for justice rose to challenge the status quo. From the Montgomery bus boycott sparked by Rosa Parks' quiet defiance to the powerful message of Martin Luther King Jr. As I Have a Dream speech, the fight for equality gained momentum. The nation's conscience was stirred, and the demand for change reached a fever pitch. It was against this backdrop of struggle and unwavering activism that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was finally signed into law. This landmark legislation marked a turning point in American history, a testament to the perseverance and courage of countless individuals who dared to dream of a better, more just society. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 stands as a powerful testament to the possibility of change. Its provisions, etched in the law of the land, aim to dismantle the very structures of segregation and discrimination that had held back Black Americans for far too long. At its heart, the act outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. This meant equal access to public accommodations, an end to segregation in schools, and a fairer playing field in employment opportunities. No longer could businesses refuse service based on the color of one's skin. No longer could schools deny entry because of one's faith or origin. The act's reach extended to voting rights, ensuring that all citizens had an equal voice in the political process. It was a bold and transformative piece of legislation, a beacon of hope for marginalized communities who had long endured the sting of prejudice and injustice. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a promise etched in ink, a promise of a more just and equitable future for all. The passage of the Civil Rights Act wasn't just about changing laws, it was about changing lives. Across the nation, ordinary people felt the impact of this landmark legislation. Black families could now stay in hotels that were once off-limits, eat at restaurants that once refused them service, and drink from water fountains labeled white. Schools began to integrate, creating classrooms that reflected the true diversity of our nation. The act's impact extended to the workplace, where opportunities once reserved for white Americans slowly began to open up to people of color. The stories of this era are as diverse as the fabric of our nation. We hear echoes of the past in the voices of those who witnessed firsthand the transformative power of the Civil Rights Act. Their stories remind us that progress is possible, that even in the face of deep-seated prejudice, the human spirit can triumph. Section 4. The Fight for Freedom, Leaders of the Movement. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was the result of tireless work by countless individuals. Martin Luther King Jr. inspired a generation to fight for equality with his belief in nonviolence. Rosa Parks' defiance on a Montgomery bus sparked a year-long boycott. John Lewis, a young activist, endured beatings and later served in Congress for over 3 decades. These leaders faced hatred with dignity, paving the way for a more just society. Section 5. Continuing the Journey, Civil Rights Today. 60 years after the Civil Rights Act, the struggle for equality is far from over. While we've made significant progress, systemic racism and discrimination persist, casting a long shadow over our nation. The fight for voting rights, a cornerstone of the civil rights movement, continues to be challenged in courts and legislatures across the country. We see the echoes of Jim Crow in policies that disproportionately impact communities of color, from mass incarceration to economic inequality. The murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless others have served as stark reminders that the fight for racial justice is far from over. These tragedies ignited a new wave of activism, with people from all walks of life taking to the streets to demand an end to police brutality and systemic racism. The struggle for LGBTQ+ rights, for the rights of immigrants, for the rights of people with disabilities, these are all extensions of the fight for civil rights that began decades ago. Section 6. The Legacy Lives On, Our Call to Action. The 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act is a time for reflection and renewed commitment. It's a time to honor the sacrifices of those who fought for a more just society. Their legacy lives on in every step we take towards equality and justice. The fight for civil rights is a marathon, not a sprint. As we move forward, let us remember Dr. King's words. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Let us be the generation that bends that arc further, making equality a reality for all.